Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Organized labor demands review of retirement age for all public servants as workers mark May Day. President-elect Bola Tinubu describes himself as an ally to workers in the fight for social and economic justice. Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom urges National Assembly members to resist last-minute attempts to pass Grazing Reserve Bill. On the foreign scene, fighting continues between Sudan's warring factions despite extending barely respected 72-hour ceasefire. Good evening, this is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. Workers in Nigeria gathered in the 36 states of the country and the Federal Capital Territory today to join their counterparts around the world to mark this year's May Day. May 4th is a day set aside to celebrate achievement of workers globally, and the theme for this year's celebration is workers' rights and socio-economic justice. Some dignitaries that joined the workers at the event in Abuja were the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, Minister of Labor and Employment, Chris Ngige, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Bello, and the Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talon. Also in attendance was the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election, Peter Obi, past and present leaders of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, as well as those of other affiliate unions were present. In the meantime, the organized labor has demanded the review of retirement age for all public servants from 60 to 65 years and from 35 years to 40 years of service. The organized labor met the demand during this year's Workers' Day celebration with the theme Workers' Rights and Socio-Economic Justice. This year's May Day celebration will be the last to be held under the President Muhammadu Buhari's led administration. The organized labor also demanded that an independent panel be set up to investigate the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu, and his team over their conduct in the 2023 general elections. The body also demanded an investigation into the spending of 12 billion naira by the Ministry of Aviation to buy 10 fire trucks. President of the NLC, Comrade Joe Ajaro, said equity, fairness, and justice underpins the survival of societies and creates resilience for nations in the midst of upheavals and turbulence, noting that Nigeria needs the presence of this mass to jumpstart the process of development. He said poor wages, abuse of workplace rights and privileges, as well as unpaid salaries, strip workers of their rights. On his part, President of the TUC, Comrade Festus Osifo, decried the state of the economy, which, according to him, is on autopilot, struggling to survive, while those engaged to manage it have kept throwing filth and injecting toxins into it. He described as unfortunate a situation which the country is led by men and women who delight in enacting policies that are detrimental to the progress of the nation, including the Central Bank of Nigeria's currency redesign policy.
30,000 of any economy, in any currency, this world, I think is a big win. But these things have been eroded by bad governance. If you gain 30,000, if it's in dollar, if it's in pound, you know that that's one of the strongest negotiations you can earn. But as you are earning it, you discover that it's been eroded by lack of macro and microeconomic, operations by the state. If you get 30,000 naira and then inflation takes it over and you devalue your naira, that it is now worth over $40. That's the problem. So the workers, as we are trying, as we are pushing to improve improve their condition. Some forces, probably, out of leadership, are giving up. And if you get 100,000 tomorrow, you see the level of devaluation, that they will just bring in and down. That is making our activities so difficult. Now if you are even allowed 30,000 naira minimum wage and bring naira, at par with dollar, or even at 50 naira per to a dollar, you see that you can beat your chest anywhere that we have done a lot.
All the federal government says lecturers, doctors, and other categories of civil servants under the Consolidated University Academic Salary Structure and Consolidated Medical Salary Scale will benefit from an undisclosed percentage of pay rise. This happened at the Eagle Square, Abuja, where the Minister of Labor, Employment and Productivity, Chris Ngige, noted that the workers will also be paid arrears of the increase from January 2023. It will be recalled that only the 144,766 federal civil servants under the Consolidated Public Service Salary Structure benefited from the introduction of the 40% pay rise known as peculiar allowance by the federal government. Addressing the public during the event, Senator Ngige noted that the National Salaries, Wages and Income Commission was working towards the finalization of the increase. He also said a total of 1.6 million poor households benefit from a bi-monthly payment of 10,000 naira each as part of the Buhari's administration's plan to mitigate sufferings amongst the citizens. The minister also noted the administration's effort towards the improvement of the living conditions of Nigerians. Still staying with the May Day celebrations, President-elect Bola Tinubu says he is a co-laborer and ally to workers in the fight for social and economic justice. Senator Tinubu spoke today in a statement released to commemorate Workers' Day. The former governor of Lagos said he will always fight for workers, adding that they will have more than minimum wage. He, however, called for better understanding and cooperation, noting that tough decisions will be made in the days ahead. Senator Tinubu added that he will win the battle against poverty with the country's workers. And here in Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke has said government employees play a vital role in various pressing issues pertaining to the state's social, economic, and financial sectors. The governor stated this at the Workers' Day celebration held at the Osogbo Township Stadium today. Olayinka Ali was at the event and files in this report.
With the theme Workers' Rights and Socio-Economic Justice, the year 2023 Workers' Day celebration was a spectacular one because it is the first in the history of the Ademola Adeleke's administration. The event was held at the Osogbo Township Stadium, where the governor, Ademola Adeleke, joined thousands of Osun State workforce to celebrate with them and also emphasize on the importance and contribution of the workers towards building Osun State and Nigeria. Being the first May Day celebration in the Ademola Adeleke's administration, the governor will refer to himself as a comrade governor, has implored the workforce to join hands with him in building a prosperous future for the state.
Before proceeding further, let me make an appeal. Workers, and we, the people of Osun State, survived the inhumane rulers of yesterday. Yet, let us collectively forgive the past and join hands together to build tomorrow. Our task is to deploy the beauty of today to create prosperous future.
Governor Adeleke also stated that in the history of Osun State, his administration is the first to have the labor as the first item on his governance agenda.
In the history of Osun State, I am unarguably the first governor to have labor as the first item on his governance agenda. Since I took over under a very hostile environment, I have remained committed to that goal of work.
The Nigeria Labour Congress NLC Caretaker Committee Chairperson of the Osun State Council, Comrade Modupe Olayemisi Oyedele, in her address said the labour movement in the state have defended the cause of workers and provided a just, democratic, transparent, inclusive and prosperous society that is built on social justice where all citizens can access the basic needs of life, lauding the Adeleke's administration for his many achievements since he became the governor of Osun State.
The mammoth crowd that turned out to celebrate this year, because the workers in Osun State, we are all happy. You know, since the inception of this present administration, things have really changed in Osun for the better. You know, the workers' salaries are being paid as at when due, and there are some of the workers that have gotten promotion in the past 2 years. And they have not been collected their salary based on the new level that they have attained. But this new administration have been taking care of that. So also the backlog of arrears of salary, our able governor has started making payments of that. So many things that government has been doing, enabling working environment that is making everybody to have a sense of belonging. And that is why you see every one of us here today celebrating, making merry.
Chairman Joint Negotiating Council JMC Osun State, Comrade Lasun Akindele, also commended the governor and staff with fairism, thereafter urging him to employ staff into the Osun State workforce.
That is we need to do that aspect to replace the retired and those that are yet to retire, because in another 2 or 3 years, nearly every office in the secretariat will be.
Government employees play a vital role in various pressing issues pertaining to the state's social, economic, and financial sectors. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
President of the Nigeria Bar Association, Yakubu Meikayu, has called on the incoming administrations at federal and state government levels to initiate, reinvigorate, and focus on policies that promote inclusiveness, protect small and medium-sized enterprises, grow the middle class, and prioritize infrastructural development. In his Workers' Day message to Nigerians, the NBA president said now more than ever before, deliberate steps must be taken to safeguard the socio-economic rights of workers. Mr. Meikayu also stressed that there must be increased accountability on subsidy spending, noting that the misappropriation and circumvention of monies earmarked for subsidies, especially petrol subsidy, must be treated as economic sabotage, and those found culpable must be prosecuted. He commended workers in both the public and private sectors, the self-employed, sole proprietors, and entrepreneurs whose ingenuity and resourcefulness create employment opportunities despite the current economic challenges. Mr. Meikayu also pledged that the NBA will continue to champion the continuous professional development of members of the bar, ensuring that members of the legal profession are equipped with the skills to thrive not only in Africa, but also in the global market. And in Kano State, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has reiterated that the 4 new emirates created by his administration are here to stay. The governor made this known today during the Workers' Day celebration held at the Sani Abacha Stadium, Kano. His statement comes days after the leader of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, Rabiu Kwankwaso, stated in a viral video that the incoming government of Abba Yusuf will review the balkanization of the Kano Emirate. However, Governor Ganduje, who split the Kano Emirate into 5 and dethroned the then Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi, stated that the 4 new emirates are a symbol of unity, progress, and the well-being of the people. He added that the emirates were created to honor the people of the regions and recover the reputation of the traditional institutions. Elsewhere, chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NITCOM, Abike Dabiri Erewa, says Egypt has finally opened its border for Nigerian students evacuated from Sudan. Mrs. Dabiri Erewa said the border was opened after President Muhammadu Buhari spoke with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The Nigeria Air Force evacuation team had on the 29th of April left for Aswan Airport to airlift the stranded Nigerians. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Students in Sudan says all stranded students in the war-wrecked country have been evacuated from the country's capital, Khartoum. Two Catholic priests, Reverend Father Chochos Kunav and Reverend Father Raphael Ogiba, have been kidnapped by gunmen within the Agbara Auto area of Ugeli North local government area in Delta State. In a statement, the Delta State Police Command said it is on the trail of the kidnappers who abducted the priest. According to the authorities, the clerics were abducted at the Agbara Auto Road on Saturday night while on their way to Ugeli. Given further details of the development, the police said the command has been proactively handling the abduction to ensure they are released unharmed. In the meantime, kidnapped former president of the Nigeria Bar Association, Okewale, has regained his freedom after spending 2 weeks in captivity. Mr. Wali, a senior advocate of Nigeria, was abducted by armed men dressed in military uniform at the Obirikwere area in Obio Akpo local government area of Rivers State on the 17th of April. NBA chairman Port Harcourt branch Victor Benibo said he was released in the early hours of today. The investigation panel set up by Inspector General of Police Usman Baba has invited the suspended resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa Hudu, Yunusa Ari. The panel invited Mr. Yunusa Ari over his conduct during the April 15th governorship election in Adamawa State. Confirming the invitation today, spokesperson of the Force Criminal Investigation Department, Fumi Egwoje, said he will appear before officials of INEC, Department of State Services, DSS, and NPF. The suspended Adamawa Rek had stirred controversy by declaring Aisha Binani Dahiru of the All Progressive Congress APC as the winner when the collation of the results was yet to be completed. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, declared the announcement null and void and summoned the Rek to its headquarters in Abuja. Subsequently, the electoral umpire wrote to the Nigeria Police Force to prosecute Mr. Yunusa Ari over the electoral infraction. On April 20th, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the suspension of the Adamawa Rek pending the completion of an investigation by the police. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come. Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom urges National Assembly members to resist last-minute attempts to pass grazing reserve bills. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Springer Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history. Ahmadu Bello, Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
You're welcome back. This is still News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. Organized labor demands a review of retirement age for all public servants as workers mark May Day. President-elect Bola Tinubu describes himself as an ally to workers in the fight for social and economic justice. Benue State Governor Samuel Ortham urges National Assembly members to resist last-minute attempts to pass Grazing Reserves Bill. And on the foreign scene, fighting continues between Sudan's warring factions despite extending barely respected 72-hour ceasefire. The All Progressive Congress APC says Victor Giadom, an ally of a former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi, remains its vice chairman in the South-South geopolitical zone. The zonal committee had announced the sack of Mr. Giadom and its secretary Ita Udosen after a meeting on Saturday. Members of the zonal committee had accused them of sabotage. In a statement today, the spokesperson of the APC, Felix Moka, said the action of the zonal committee members was not lawful and therefore null and void. In the meantime, National Vice Chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, in the Northwest, Saliu Lukman, says a recommendation for his expulsion from the party will not stop his suit against the National Chairman, Abdullahi Adamu. In a leaked memo to Mr. Adamu, APC National Legal Advisor Adam Ahmad El Marquis recommended the expulsion of Mr. Lukman for suing the party. Mr. Lukman had asked the Federal High Court in Abuja to compel Senator Adamu and the party's secretary, Iyola Omichori, to publish APC's financial records. In a letter addressed to the national chairman, the vice chairman said the APC constitution does not empower the National Working Committee to discipline any member of the party. And in Osun State, the crisis rocking the opposition All Progressive Congress, APC, in the state may be heading for a resolution as party stakeholders have now agreed to work together to reposition the party in the state. This was the focus today as immediate past governor of the state, Adegboyega Oyetola, inaugurated an 11-man committee to steer the party out of murky waters, mend fences, and restore it to its glory days. Speaking during the inauguration in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, former Governor Oyetola noted that it was time to allow peace to reign for the greater good and for the party to regain its prime position. On his part, Speaker of the Osun State House of Assembly, Timothy Oweye, also pointed out the importance of taking lessons from the performance of the party in the last election and forge a stronger bond going forward. Meanwhile, Chairman of the committee and former Minister of Health, Isaac Adewale, assured Mr. Oyetola and the APC that the committee will thoroughly deliver on its mandate and fulfill the objectives given it. The committee to reposition APC in Osun is saddled with the responsibility of providing a credible pathway for reconciliation and rehabilitation of the party structure, administration, and activities in the state.
We must also not gloss over some of the challenges caused by the excesses of some leaders and members of the party and elected officials, hence the inauguration of this committee. The committee, under the leadership of the former head minister, Professor Asik Adewale, will have the following as in terms of reference. Review. 1. Review activities of the party in recent times. 2. Consider the aspect of party administration, that is, the structure, funding, discipline, and reconciliation. 3. Make recommendations for an ethical reward system in Osun State.
And at the same time, I want to appeal to all the party patrons to remain calm and be rest assured that this government is still within our party, is still within our set, our universal. So I believe that this committee will do a human job to make sure that we bring to book those who have perpetrated in anti-party activities in the state of Osun. And at the same time, they should do the job without favor, without taunting anybody. They have to come out straight and bring anybody found guilty to book.
That I, on behalf of this committee, Your Excellency, accept the onerous responsibility assigned to us in our dear state. We do not doubt the challenge, that the challenge is enormous. But as committed patrons, we shall, as passionate and caring physicians, propose ideas and strategies to heal our wounds as a progressive family and usher in a new era for the APC in Osun State.
In other news, Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom has urged members of the National Assembly to remain vigilant and resist last-minute attempts under whatever guise to pass a bill that seeks to deprive Nigerians of their God-given lands in favor of pastoralists across the country. Governor Orthom's call was contained in a statement by his special advisor on media, Teva Akasai. Governor Ortom said he finds it curious that since 2016, the presidency has sent the Grazing Reserves Bill to the National Assembly bearing different names, and despite the public outcry, the government is not giving up the idea of having the bill passed. The governor is of the opinion that if passed by the National Assembly, the law will establish a council with the powers to take over land in any part of the country for grazing reserves and pay compensation to the landowners. According to him, the beneficiaries of the usurped land will be pastoralists whose animals will enjoy unfettered access to the land. In his opinion, the National Grazing Reserves Council Bill is not only a violation of the Constitution and the Land Use Act, but is also a fang of impunity, subjugation, and a deeply rooted conquest agenda against Nigerians. Governor Ortom said the bill is a direct land-grabbing legislation designed to make Nigerians slaves in their country while serving the selfish and parochial interests of headsmen. The governor urged members of the National Assembly to act as true representatives of the people for the sake of posterity and to remember that the future and unity of the nation lies in their hands. In Edo State, a farmer, Friday Omosiho, has committed suicide after attacking his wife with a machete on the farm and leaving her in a pool of blood in Benin City, Edo State. The incident happened at a Baru village in the Umowode local government area of the state. The deceased was said to have accused his wife, Mercy Omosiho, of infidelity. Edo State Police Command spokesperson Chidi Unwabuzo, who confirmed the incident, said the man drank a substance suspected to be the insecticide sniper. He said the police moved to the scene, recovered the corpse, and deposited it at the mortuary. He said the wife, who was still alive, was taken to the hospital where she is receiving treatment adding that investigation on the matter is ongoing. In other news, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention says the death toll from Lassa fever in Nigeria so far this year has risen to 154. In its 16th week Lassa fever situation report, the NCDC said there had been a total of 897 confirmed cases recorded from 26 states and 103 local government areas from January 1st to April 23rd, 2023. A total of 4,908 suspected cases were recorded during the period under review. With the current death toll, the Public Health Institution noted that the case fatality ratio of the outbreak stood at 17.2%. And moving on to some education stories, the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, says results for the 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME will be released on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. JAMB spokesman Fabian Benjamin, in a statement, also said all candidates who could not sit for the 2023 UTME within their scheduled time, owing to no fault of theirs, will be rescheduled to take the examination on Saturday, May 6, 2023. He said the candidates under these categories are those who were verified at their centers but could not sit for the examination, those who could not be biometrically verified, and those with mismatched data. He said out of the 1,586,765 candidates that indicated interest in sitting for the examination, only 80,166 are now outstanding. On the foreign scene, Sudan's warring factions continue to fight despite extending a barely respected 72-hour ceasefire, which was due to end at midnight yesterday. The army and the paramilitary rapid support forces both said they will extend the much-bridged ceasefire for a further 72 hours, with the RSF saying its decision was in response to international, regional, and local calls. But dark smoke could be seen around the capital, Khartoum, despite the ceasefire.
Sudan's rival military forces accused each other of fresh violations of a ceasefire on Sunday as their deadly conflict rumbled on for a third week despite warnings of a slide towards civil war. Hundreds of people have been killed and thousands wounded since the long-simmering power struggle between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces, RSF, erupted into conflict on April 15. Both sides said a formal ceasefire agreement, which was due to expire at midnight, would be extended for a further 72 hours, and a move the RSF said was in response to international, regional, and local calls. The army said on Sunday it had destroyed RSF convoys moving towards Khartoum from the west. The RSF said the army had used artillery and warplanes to attack its positions in a number of areas in Khartoum province. The conflict has sent tens of thousands of people fleeing across Sudan's borders and prompted warnings the country could disintegrate, destabilizing a volatile region and prompting foreign governments to scramble to evacuate their nationals. The U.S. has sent a Navy ship to take its citizens, and Britain has announced it has arranged an extra evacuation flight from Port Sudan on the eastern Red Sea coast on Monday. Underlining the extent of the instability, Canada said it was ending its evacuation flights because of dangerous conditions. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan, whose government has played a part in mediating the ceasefires, met Burhan envoy, the Falah al-Harjali, in Riyadh and called for calm. The Saudi Foreign Ministry said there have been reports of the experiences of people fleeing the hostilities at the port, as many fear there is no way out. Port Sudan is packed with people who have less lucky passports, including Yemenis, Syrians, and Sudanese. Some 3,000 Yemenis, mainly students, have been stuck for weeks in Port Sudan. The Saudis are rescuing some Yemenis, but they are nervous about accepting large numbers, according to a security advisor trying to help them find a way back to their own war-torn country. The National Association of Nigerian Students, Sudan, said that 1,300 stranded Nigerians left Khartoum on Sunday. This was contained in a letter signed by the Public Relations Officer, NANT, Amal Pantami, on Sunday, but gave no details as to their destination. According to him, there were a total of 26 buses, and each bus contained about 50 people. He, however, sought the prayers of well-meaning Nigerians on the safety of their trip to Nigeria. At least 528 people have been killed and 4,599 wounded, the health ministry said. The United Nations has reported a similar number of dead, but believes the real toll is much higher. With the United Nations reporting only 16% of health facilities in Khartoum operating as normal, the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, delivered 8 tons of medical aid. And while approval had been given for the supplies to go to Khartoum, negotiations were ongoing with the sites to facilitate delivery within the city, where hospitals, convoys, and ambulances have been attacked. Earlier on today, the World Food Programme, WFP, lifted its suspension of operations in the country. It ceased operations last month after 3 of its workers were killed. Temitokbe Ajijolaoluola, Western Spring Television News.
To the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine says its air defenses destroyed 15 out of the 18 missiles launched by Russian forces as Moscow intensified its attack against its neighbor in recent days. Ukraine's commander-in-chief of the armed forces, Valery Zaluzhnyi, made this known in a Telegram post, noting that at least 1 person was killed and 3 others injured in the southern region of Kherson. The military also said 34 people, including 5 children, were injured in the attack on the Dnipropetrovsky region. According to officials in Kiev, no civilian casualties or destruction of residential buildings or infrastructure were recorded. Ukraine's air defense system have been bolstered in recent months by deliveries of Western equipment, including the American Patriot missile system received in April. And in Asia, officials in the Indian state of Assam are asking about 300 police officers who they deem to have an alcohol problem to quit the force. State Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma said heavy drinking had affected their health and they were being asked to retire early. Mr. Sarma had earlier vowed to cut the deadwood out of the police force. Several Assam officers have been suspended for drunken outbursts while on duty. Mr. Salman said similar programs were being implemented in other states. Still ahead, JP Morgan Chase takes over troubled United States bank First Republic. We have more on this and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 Naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
You're welcome back. Moving on to some business stories. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, says it will investigate allegations of a cancer-causing chemical found in Indomie noodles. Health officials in Malaysia and Taiwan said they had detected ethylene oxide, a compound in Indomie special chicken flavored noodles. Malaysia and Taiwan have since recalled the Indomie special chicken flavor from shelves. In reaction, Indo Food, makers of Indomie noodles, said the product was safe for consumption. NAFDAC Director General Mojisola Adeyeye said the agency will begin random sample tests of the noodles and other brands from May the 2nd. She said NAFDAC started investigating once it got wind of the recall of the products by Taiwan and Malaysia authorities. The DG said the product is on the prohibition list of the federal government, adding that it is not registered by the agency and had been banned from importation to Nigeria years ago. She said NAFDAC is working to ensure that the product is not being smuggled and that the feedback from the investigations will be communicated to the public. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, says it will reconnect 3 electricity distribution companies which were earlier disconnected from the power grid over non-compliance with market rules. In a statement, TCN's market operator, Edmond AJ, said the reconnection followed the intervention of the Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, who has considered the collateral consequences on the paying customers. Consequently, Mr. AJ said the suspended market participants will be reconnected to the national grid at the instance of the minister. The market operator warned that other defaulters who are yet to be suspended or disconnected should settle their default within 60 days. JP Morgan Chase has taken over the troubled United States bank First Republic in a deal brokered by regulators. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation confirmed in a statement that First Republic Bank had collapsed today. Investment banking giant JP Morgan will take on all of the deposit and the majority of First Republic's assets. First Republic is the third U.S. bank to fail in recent months, which has prompted fears of wider banking crisis. The San Francisco-based lender's shares fell by more than 75% last week after it admitted that customers had withdrawn $100 billion of deposits in March. It follows on from the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in March and the demise of another U.S. lender, Signature Bank. And welcome to sports. Ukrainian athletes will boycott this month's World Judo Championship in Qatar over concerns about Russian and Belarusian participation. The International Judo Federation decided to allow athletes from Russia and Belarus to compete as neutrals. The decision will allow judokas from these countries participate in qualifying for the 2024 Olympic Games. The Ukrainian Judo Federation said it decided not to participate in the event because a number of Russian judoka registered for the championship are active servicemen. The Judo World Championship is set to take place between 7th and 14th of this month. Last month, the International Olympic Committee recommended that Russian and Belarusian athletes are allowed to compete under a neutral flag, but it has yet to make a decision on Paris 2024. And moving on to some football stories, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says the Premier League title race is not over and the club still have the nicest part of the season to come. Yesterday, the Gunners lost sport to Manchester City, who beat them 4-1 on Wednesday and hold a 1-point advantage with a game in hand. Arsenal have spent 247 days at the top this season compared to City's 16th. Arteta said Arsenal, who are without a win in 4 games, want to put things right at home to Chelsea tomorrow. Brighton's defeat by Nottingham Forest on Wednesday sealed Arsenal's place in the Champions League next season for the first time since the 2016-2017 season.
I think so. Obviously, it took us a while to go over what happened at the Etihad, but we don't want to accept that. But you have to recognize that on the day when they took to the game to a different level, we didn't reach that level, and they were better than us, and they deserve to win the game. Win tomorrow. That's what we have to do. And within the disappointment and the spirit around it. Two things. The first one, recognize what a lot of people has done at the club to get us back into the Champions League. It was already a difficult thing to achieve, and not a lot of people was very optimistic that we had the ability to do that at the start of the season. So first, I recognize all the good work that a lot of people has done to achieve that. And the second thing, that is what I like the most, is that even achieving that with 6 games to go, something I don't think has happened in more than a decade at this club, we're still not satisfied, and we're still upset, and we want more. So we want to be the club that we want to be consistently with the best. That's the mentality that we need, and that's what I loved more the last few days.
Meanwhile, Chelsea manager Frank Lampard has outlined the issues within the club as they search for their first win in 8 games. Lampard was speaking to the media ahead of their trip to the Emirates tomorrow. He said the team can overtake Arsenal if they make the right decisions. The Blues currently sit in 12th place on the Premier League table in what has been a miserable campaign at Stamford Bridge.
So I think I shouldn't distinguish that and make it all about confidence. I think, as I keep saying, you can only work to get a level of performance to then bring confidence back. I've been here in periods where the club where they have had confidence has been low because nobody likes losing games. And I had moments here as a player where we dropped our standards as a collective and had to lift it. Fortunately, in those periods, when you look back over history, we managed to get it back through hard work, maybe level of the squad, whatever at the time. We changed manager a lot in some of those periods. So it's certainly not one to try and compare generations or eras. It's just different now, you know, in terms of the modern player, the squad that we have here, and what expectations are. So the only thing we can do is consider the moment now and the future as a club, and work very hard to get the squad where we want it, and also to get the players performing, so that confidence word is not like a big word I'm using in my press conference every week, because at a club like this you should work hard, and the level of player, it shouldn't be talking about team confidence, but it's clearly an issue at the minute that needs to be addressed.
Body of Premier League Referees, PGMOL, says it strongly refutes suggestions by Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp that referee Paul Tierney's actions were improper during yesterday's 4-3 win over Tottenham. The Football Association are also looking into Klopp's post-match comments after he said Tierney appears to have something against his team. The German was shown a yellow card for celebrating Liverpool's 94th minute winner in front of the fourth official, and later claimed what Tierney said to him was not okay. The Professional Game Match Officials Limited said Tierney acted in a professional manner throughout the game and when cautioning Klopp. And that's all of this are, but before we go, here is our recap of our major stories. The organized labor has demanded the review of retirement age for all public servants from 60 to 65 years and from 35 years to 40 years of service. President-elect Bola Tinubu says he is a co-laborer and ally to workers in the fight for social and economic justice. Benue State Governor Samuel Otham has urged members of the National Assembly to remain vigilant and resist last-minute attempts under whatever guise to pass a bill that seeks to deprive Nigerians of their God-given land in favor of pastoralists across the country. And on the foreign scene, Sudan's warring factions continue to fight despite extending a barely respected 72-hour ceasefire, which was due to end at midnight yesterday. Plus, do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Tunde Idowu. Good evening.